I hope brings us a little more hope because he's actually in the practice of raising animals well. And this is will provide for us an example of and some discussion about how to do that and why he does it. Maynard Beery is of Beery Farms in Michigan, here in Ingham County. Mr. Beery raises grass-fed beef and goats in Mason. A former large-scale livestock confinement operator, he switched to humane, environmentally friendly farming more than a decade ago. He uses the Argentine grazing style of a diverse perennial grasses and summer-winter annuals to meet year-round forage needs for the animals. And his farm is in transition to organic certification. If you'll come up here, Maynard, thank you.
We transitioned the farm. It will be now, I think the last, well, let me just start with where we were at. What we were doing was buying dairy deacon calves, in other words, bull calves from local dairy farmers. And we would bring these calves home, feed them milk replacer, and kill a lot of them because that system doesn't work real well. We'd feed them, or we'd used a lot of needles, a lot of antibiotics. They'd get pneumonia, respiratory, stomach problems from the system that they were being fed in. But we did manage to get some of them up, and then we would feed them all grain. We attempted to make that system work for a lot of years and essentially failed at it. Grain prices, variable quality grain, animals that wouldn't gain. We didn't have the system down like the feedlots. Control feed costs, control your end price, implants, hormone implants, antibiotics in the feed, all of the tricks that go into a grain-fed animal. We acquired a group of 40 Holstein Jersey crosses as our last group and did all of those tricks. And yes, I believe we made money on that group of cattle, but the process, every 3 months we'd run them through a chute and inject hormones in their ears. About 2 hours after that, why, they'd all be tearing around the feedlot, acting like a bunch of bulls and carrying on. It was pretty crazy. And of course, it was scraping feedlots on a daily basis, shoving this off into a lagoon that we had, hauling manure, all those kinds of things, which hauling manure is one of my least favorite things to do on a farm. It seems so counterproductive. Decided that system was not going to work. There was way too much red ink. Just wasn't going to work. Okay, it was at that point that we started building fences around the perimeter fence around the farm, and decided to go to a pasture grazing type system, and haven't looked back. Essentially. Started with about 3-4 half a dozen heifer calves that I had accidentally picked up in the process of acquiring deacon calves, and those have become the basis for the herd. Some of those animals are still with me. I think some of them are pushing 12-14 years, which is kind of unusual for cows these days. The system has grown. The animal, we now have, I think, around 40 head of cows, heifers, and calves, with about 25 animals that are in the finishing process. It's a very satisfying system. There's nothing more satisfying then moving those fences at the end of the day, taking that back fence down and letting those cows through and see them run to that new green grass, even those old cows kicking up their heels. It's what it's about. As you can probably tell, I don't believe in life after cows. The biggest problem that I've got right now, other than a drought last summer and 7 months of winter, which is really killing me in terms of feed supplies and that kind of thing, but I've got some really tough girls out there. They're hanging in. Biggest problem, as I started to say, that I've got right now is supply. I direct market my beef, and the number of hits that I get on a daily basis on the farm website is, well, I can't keep up with it. So a friend of mine handles the communication aspects of the marketing. Right now, our beef, when it's sold, goes to Graham's Organics in Rosebush. They are USDA inspected, USDA organic certified. The meat is vacuum packed, and they just really do a super job. They're a great family that has put a real organic organization together. We are ramping up. One of the things that I did last summer, just kind of as an aside, as to what's kind of happening with the organization, the growth I can see. We've got more animals than what we've got land based there at home, and so we're going to need to find probably some lands to pasture our animals on. Last year, the State Journal here, the local newspaper, has been talking about, and the city of Lansing, of course, is broke too, and so they had to abandon their golf courses, 2 of them, and so I've been watching them, and they've been talking about them in the papers, how ugly they look and growing up the weeds and all this kind of stuff, and so I got in contact with the City of Lansing Parks Department and said, hey, you know, I'd like to pasture my cows out there on those golf courses of yours. And they said, well, that's an interesting proposal. Why don't you write us a proposal? So I did write them a proposal in terms of putting up some fence and pasturing their golf courses. They decided that they weren't quite ready for that. What I did do all summer is I purchased an old flail chopper, and I got a tractor and a feeder wagon, and so on a daily basis I would go to, actually I wound up cutting grass off of a golf course at the corner of Saginaw and Waverly Road, the Waverly Hills Golf Course. Maybe some of you know of that. That's about 120 acres there, 80 of which is mowable. And then I said, hey, you know, I'm running out of grass. And they said, well, yeah, we got red cedar over here, which is just west of us here. You want to cut that? I said, sure. And so we cut the grass off of that last fall. And I said, you got any more grass? And they said, yeah, we still got one more park over by Frandor. You can take the grass off of that. So I did that also. And still didn't have enough grass. And so I found another privately owned golf course over here on the east side of East Lansing, and I have made arrangements with those owners, and I'm presently cutting grass off of that, and as soon as the snow leaves, I will be back out there cutting again. But what I'd really like to do is become an urban cowboy. I'd like to put fence up on these properties, and I believe that the cows and the people can get along. I don't think there's going to be a problem there. I don't know how many people came up to me after I cut the grass over at Waverly Hills and told me how great things looked, how it looked like a lawn, and how pleased that they were that somebody was doing something with this property. And ever so many people my age would come up and say, golly, I remember doing that when I was a kid, or I was raised on a farm. There was a lot of good interaction between myself and the neighbors. It was a very positive experience. I did try to go forward with the pasturing thing with the city, and was using the right to farm decision that was made in the Upper Peninsula, because that was one of the issues. The golf courses are zoned, at least one of the golf courses is zoned residential, and cattle are not allowed in residential zoning. But a court decision in the UP said that right to farm does preempts local zoning. So I thought, well, I've got the township now, got them in a corner, and then the city backed out on me. So it looks like I'm going to be back to that system that I hate, which is cut and carry. Until I can work this system around, find those vacant properties, because one of the things that's a problem for me is that while I'm not organic certified, I want to follow the organic guidelines, and I believe that I do, and I am actually working on AGA certification, American Grass-Fed Association certification, and along with that, animal welfare approved. And so those are two certifications that I feel are even stronger than USDA certification, okay? Because I could be feeding them organic grain. They could be organically grain-fed cattle, okay? Most of the farmers around me are production ag. The land has all been hammered with chemicals. I have to find those parcels that have laid around vacant for 4 or 5 years so that I am, in fact, organic. But that's kind of a nutshell glimpse of who and what I am, what I'm up to, and one thing and another. And I'll have to start taking some pictures.